We begin this morning with tragic and wild news out of Valhalla Golf Club in Louisville. If you've been paying attention this morning, or maybe you're just waking up, there was a gentleman that was killed, hit by a bus at about 5 a.m. this morning. He was apparently in a dedicated bus lane and was hit by a bus and died on the scene. That, of course, is the worst development from what has occurred this morning at the golf tournament. After that, things have gotten wild and weird. Scottie Scheffler is on all of the televisions above us here in the studio, detained in handcuffs outside of the golf club, as apparently the number one golfer in the world has been arrested for allegedly, theoretically, we're trying to put the pieces together just like everybody who is out there, people who are covering it. Jeff Darlington doing a fantastic job of trying to give us all of the information from the golf club. Apparently tried to skirt around a police barricade or get around the traffic jam that was caused by the fatality earlier this morning. When he did that, a police officer, approached him, told him to stop. Apparently, maybe there was some grabbing of the vehicle, and Scottie Scheffler has been arrested, taken into police custody, and we have no idea if he is going to golf today. That, of course, Gabe feels like peripheral details, peripheral information. Whether or not Scottie Scheffler golfs today certainly will be followed closely by a number of people. But right now, we're just trying to put the pieces together of all of the things that have happened this morning at the golf club.
We will have some idea by the time our show ends. He is supposed to tee off at 10:08 Eastern Time, 9:08 our time, after everything was pushed back because the tournament had to be pushed back because of all the traffic and everything that went around the fatality of the pedestrian. So Scottie was not the only golfer who was having struggles getting into Valhalla this morning. So they pushed everything back because of that. Everything ended up being pushed back by about an hour, 20 minutes. So his tee time is just a little over 2 hours from now. Gabby Herzig from The Athletic saying she was told by a PGA of America official that the situation with Scottie Scheffler is, quote, ongoing, and they are not in a position to confirm his status at the moment.
So we were talking this morning in our production meeting just about how this kind of touches on some of the things that we have experienced. Chewy, obviously being an NFL player, there were many, many, many times where he was trying to get into Lambeau Field or trying to get into a visiting, when he was the visitor, going to a different stadium. Chew, how did this relate to, and of course we're not speaking about the fatality. That is the tragedy this morning. I want to make sure that we recognize that that is the most significant thing that has occurred since about 5 a.m. this morning. But Chew, just to bring it to what you have experienced, how did that relate to some of the things that you have been through when trying to get to the stadium?
Well, playing on the road is easy because you always got a police escort because everyone is obviously staying at the hotel. So they would have 3 buses. They'd have an early bus, middle bus, and then a late bus, all getting police escorts. The tough thing is when you played at home, and a noon game was easy because we stayed overnight at the hotel, and then everyone would go to the stadium from there. So everyone would kind of take the same route. The tough one was when you play a 3:30 game or a night game because you'd stay the night in the hotel, and then most guys would go home, right? Spread out all over metropolitan Green Bay. So that was tough to gauge because depending on the weather, depending on certain things, you're not sure how the traffic is going to work out, right? Sometimes it would be absolutely packed. And just speaking from my experience, I'd go to a game and traffic would be crazy and I got to get to so there is a number of times I would be driving in the breakdown lane just to get to the stadium. Obviously, I don't remember anyone having any interaction with police officers, but I can kind of understand how this happens. I mean, and obviously the fatality made this more chaotic around. And then you have an anxiety because you're like, oh my God, because we all know athletes are creatures of habit, right? So if you're 7 minutes late getting to the golf course, you're like, man, I gotta go. And that's how I think this happened. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think there are three parties to blame here. I think Scottie Scheffler is one of them. I think the PGA is another one. And I think the cops have some blame to go along with this.
So there is an update now from Eric Crawford, who is a reporter for WDRB television in Louisville. He has from a Louisville police source, Scheffler refused to stop when ordered to do so by a police officer. He continued to drive and, quote, dragged the officer with his car for a short time, which is why he was detained. The officer has minor injuries.
So let's get to the sound this morning because Jeff Darlington, as I mentioned, has been covering this. He witnessed the interaction between Scottie Scheffler and the police officers. He has put that video out on social media. But first and foremost, let's hear what he had to say this morning on SportsCenter about the interaction and what happened.
Scottie Scheffler has been detained by police officers, placed in the back of a police vehicle in handcuffs after he tried to pull around what he believed to be security. Ended up being police officers. They told him to stop. When he didn't stop, the police officer attached himself to the vehicle. Scheffler then traveled another 10 yards before stopping the car. The police officer then grabbed at his arm, attempting to pull him out of the car before Scheffler eventually opened the door, at which point the police officer pulled Scheffler out of the car, pushed him up against the car, and immediately placed him in handcuffs. Scheffler was then walked over to the police car, placed in the back in handcuffs, very stunned about what was happening, looked toward me as he was in those handcuffs and said, "Please help me." He very clearly did not know what was happening in the situation. It moved very quickly, very rapidly, very aggressively. He was detained in that police vehicle for approximately 20 minutes. The police officers at that point did not understand that Scottie Scheffler was a golfer in the tournament, nor, of course, that he is the number one player in the world.
So there's the details of what occurred from Jeff Darlington, who, again, witnessed the entire thing. I think Chewy gives excellent perspective about what it is like to be an athlete trying to get to your event. And I think that for context, we have to keep remembering that there was a fatality this morning. So, Chewy, great point by you to say everybody's on high alert. Like the adrenaline is running. And as an athlete, you are a creature of habit and want to get in to where you're going. And look, I'm telling you guys this morning, like, it's different, but it's similar when I am trying to get to a game day site, right? That is a whole thing. Whether you think it's to the level of a PGA or a golf tournament or not, there is a large footprint. There is massive security. There are droves and droves and droves of people who are trying to get to a place by a certain time. Our show kicks off at 9 a.m. Eastern, so whatever time that is in our respective city. And there are times when, if we don't travel with our ESPN security or our ESPN runners, and we are independently trying to get to site, we will run into problems. We have been told you have to get there an hour before you think you have to get there because security is going to be tight because they are not going to be allowing people to go around. You will have to get in line with the people who are trying to get to site as well, with all of the fans who are trying to take in game day. So I have experienced this as well. It is very nerve-wracking. There's a lot of adrenaline. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of, if I don't get there, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm sure that Scottie wasn't thinking he was going to get in trouble, but the idea of I have a routine I have to get to. This to me, Gabe, is just an unfortunate confluence of circumstance, right? Between the fatality this morning, which of course, as we have mentioned, is the most unfortunate thing to happen. Scottie trying to get into the course, police officers on high alert because of what has happened. And then, of course, him seemingly ignoring security/police, because again, the other thing was they are claiming they were not identifiable, the police officers. So they did not have police on. They had these yellow jackets. You can see them in the Jeff Darlington video.
Yeah, so they had the rain jackets on. There is some weather happening right now in that area, and they, the rain's coming down, so they've got the rain jackets on. And on the back of it says police. I don't know what it says on the front, right? So you see that yellow vest. It's usually construction worker, security guard, or whatever. And one of the things that Darlington had said was that, I thought he heard Scheffler say he thought that guy was a security guard and not a police officer. So that kind of led to the misunderstanding, I think, of everything that happened.
It all goes to miscommunication. I mean, on the car, it says official car of the PGA.
Correct.
So someone should tell these cops, and the fatality is horrible, but it wasn't a hit and run. Okay? Unfortunately, the guy was hit by a bus. There wasn't a hit and run suspect out there or anything. I understand it's heightened, okay? But someone should communicate to these cops that, look, players have to get in here. They will be in cars that say official car of the PGA. Now, Scheffler was wrong not to stop. He should have said, yes, sir, what's going on? The cop would have yelled at him maybe or something. He would have been like, I'm a player trying to get to the course, okay? So I think in that instance, there's a miscommunication and Scheffler's wrong because he should have stopped. But, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a yell at the guy, say, I'm giving you a ticket for $300. Don't do this again. The communication was wrong, and go about your day. I mean, the fact that he's being led off and handcuffed, he's done. He's done. Even if he does play, Gabe, he ain't winning this tournament now.
No, I mean, and again, it looks like
this is going to be in the back of his head.
Just kind of taking a look at the Louisville Metropolitan Department of Corrections website, his name does now appear. No mugshot or anything like that yet, but he has, looks like, been booked by the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department. So,
you know where I immediately went to, guys? I immediately went to A.J. Dillon at the soccer game trying to rile up the crowd. Mm-hmm. Cop comes over, grabs him, roughs him up, finds out who he is, right? And then even gives him a shove. This is just bad communication.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad communication all the way around.
And I do think, too, that the emotions of the situation probably heightened everything, right? Like Scottie Scheffler is already, like you mentioned, behind schedule probably because of the delay getting in. So that's going to heighten his emotions. Police officers are already on high alert because someone has died in the last few hours. At 5 a.m., this gentleman was hit by a bus. So they're already heightened. And that just ratchets up what, like you said, could have been avoided and diffused probably very quickly if cooler heads on both sides could have prevailed.
To add further context, Jeff Darlington also reported that they were told that only players and coaches were going to be able to get around and get into Valhalla. So as part of that, Scottie Scheffler was following what he was told was possible, and it seems like the breakdown of communication happened there. He was told to stop and didn't. But Michael Collins also went on SportsCenter and reported that there are other players on the course, on the putting green, and some at the driving range. Some walked because it was so bad, but others did exactly what Scottie Scheffler did and used that side lane that Scottie was to jump everybody waiting to get into Valhalla. So it was something that they knew was going to be a part of the situation at hand.
Lots of reaction rolling in this morning as people are getting caught up as they wake up this morning to what is going on at Valhalla with Scottie Scheffler apparently arrested, detained.
Oh, he is.
Said he was booked already
right now. Yeah.
So this is a developing story. It is popping, as we speak. Let's see. Jim weighing in saying, I feel like Scottie and people like him are always on guard for screaming fans following his car. That's another element, right? When you are, he's at the golf. He's the biggest star right now in golf. Yes, there is a part of him. I want to make sure we're clear on this. Jay weighing in saying, so it's okay that he was just a security guard, not a police officer. The guy should have stopped anyway. Incorrect on all accounts. Scottie Scheffler did not know that the police officer was a security guard. Either way, at those events, he should defer to what the security guards, to what the parking. Just think about when you go to AmFam Field, folks, right? And those folks are out there in their yellow vests and they're moving you through. And sometimes the traffic is switching from this lane to that lane, and you're going to this parking lot, but I'm going to Premier, so I need to go straight, even though everyone, like, you just got to listen to those people. You have to defer to what they are telling you to do. And this probably should have been a conversation. Ryan weighing in saying, sorry, but if it's true and Scheffler tried to drive away from that cop, he should be charged with whatever's necessary. I don't care who he is. It doesn't make him any better than a normal person who is going to work. You got to be better in that situation.
So what's the charge? You're getting arrested for driving away from a cop at however slow he was going? Like, did Scottie handle the situation perfectly? Absolutely not. Like, I think there's a lot of fault to be passed around. I don't think this is just oh, yeah, you got to do whatever. Like, so what, I mean, the fact that he was trying to get into his tournament, was allowed to do so. It's not like he was driving an unmarked car. Was driving a vehicle that was clearly marked, official vehicle of the PGA. And now I'm looking at his mugshot. Like, something went terribly wrong here. Like, this should have not have gone this far.
There is added context. Also, I don't think anyone here has picked a side, so if you've heard that, I don't know exactly what you're listening to. Secondly, it appears that Scottie Scheffler, through Jeff Darlington's reporting, was wildly confused with everything. It was pitch black outside. He was told something that he could do. He was not allowed to do it. Scottie Scheffler looked at Darlington and said, please help me. Because there was a mass confusion around a tragedy. Scottie wasn't aware of what was going on ahead of him, it appears to be, and he was following the orders he was given. So there was just confusion. It's not like he was saying, I'm the world #1 golfer, I don't care what the cops have to say. It seems like it was a misunderstanding and there was a lot of confusion.
And I think, again, heightened emotion is going to contribute to this thing going sideways more often than not.
Yes.
You know, we have a great saying here at Good Karma Brands, and I wasn't even aware of it until just very recently, but it was, even if there is an emergency, there isn't. And the idea is that, like, even if things are chaotic and things are going sideways behind the scenes, handle it calmly. Don't make that scene worse by having heightened emotions or shouting at someone, or, you know what I mean? So the idea, again, and I'm not sure that you can convey this to everybody or police officers or to people, but the idea is, like, can you, when there is a chance for heightened emotions, can you take a deep breath? And in this instance, again, this was like bang, bang. This was pop, pop, pop. As Jeff Darlington said, this was developing very quickly, very aggressively, but it does feel like, Gabe, we are talking about who you're blaming in this situation. There's plenty of blame to go around.
Yeah.
We have not taken sides. We are saying, I have said earlier, this feels like a confluence of circumstance that led to Scottie Scheffler being arrested.
Well, and again, to go back to Josh's, he was clearly confused. Like, Scottie Scheffler, if anybody watched season 1 of Full Swing, like, excitement for Scottie Scheffler is trying his wife's coffee after they went to a coffee shop, right? Like, he is just the nicest, most boring person that exists out there. He doesn't scream, oh, I'm better than everyone, so this is what I'm doing. Like, that's not who this guy is by any account. So, again, if I were power ranking every player in this tournament on their likelihood of being arrested, like, Scottie Scheffler would have been last, which is why this is also just so surreal, the fact that I'm looking at his mugshot online right now.
All right,
common sense, right? Common sense should ultimately prevail, right? Leave them in the car for a half hour, find out what the situation is, write them a ticket, because I know what's going to happen. They're going to have their press conference, and they're going to make it sound horrible. And
but Chew, it's already past that. Hasn't that already?
That's what
the
I'm
fact
saying.
that he has been booked and charged, and now there is a Scottie Scheffler mugshot circulating on social media, would lead me to believe we are past the misunderstanding.
Our bad.
Let bygones be bygones.